Jazzcast Pros.
What would happen to you if you received the unfortunate diagnosis of having multiple sclerosis? In today's episode, we'll delve into the inspiring journey of our guest, Virginia, who faced a diagnosis of MS and battled with suicidal thoughts. Despite the challenges, she refused to give into the despair and instead took courageous steps to turn her life around and be an inspiration to others. Welcome to Fearless Fridays with Marianne, the podcast to help you get unstuck, heal your inner child, and reshape your future. I am your host, Marianne Rivera-Dannert, and with over 10 years of experience as a coach, author, speaker, and owner of MRD Empowerment Solutions, I use my personal life experience with trauma, healing, and rediscovery as a catalyst for personal growth. My mission is to empower women like you to discover and unlock your full potential, paving the way to a life marked by freedom and balance. Together, we'll tackle the tough stuff and find the strength within to rise above. And today we have an amazing guest with us. So without further ado, let's bring her on. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. It was great to see you, Marianne.
Thank you. Likewise. Tell us your name and a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Virginia Oman. I'm a licensed mental health therapist of over 30 years. I'm also a life coach and a wellness master and a national certified personal fitness trainer. And, I've been doing this for so many decades, but in the last 10 years, have discovered that by combining all three of those areas together, it benefits the clients that I work with so much. What I do is not only help get a person out of a place of darkness or feeling stuck, but help them move on from there and actually thrive and have more joy and fulfillment in their life than ever before.
That's beautiful. So was there something pivotal that occurred in your life that created the shift and for you to get into this line of work?
There's been a lot of things. Yeah. But if you know anything about my story, and the best way to get that is to go to my website, which is virginiaoman.com. Sorry, my cat's sitting on a piece of paper making some crinkling noises. Anyway, in 1988, I was diagnosed with MS, and it didn't really affect me too dramatically until the early 2000s. And then it started to become secondary progressive, which means it just continues going downwards. Yeah. And I got to the point, I made the mistake at that time of listening to the advice of the medical establishment. I tried all their medication. I did what they told me to do, stayed away from the things they told me to stay away from. And I watched as my body just slowly deteriorated month after month, year after year. And it got to the point where I was in a wheelchair, couldn't walk, couldn't work. I lost my home because I had no employment. I mean, it was real devastation. Yeah. And I heard a voice inside me at that time because I was seriously thinking of cashing in my chips. I'm a person that's highly active and participates in a lot of different things in life. That's the way I love to live. Mm-hmm. So if I can't do that, I'm not real interested in hanging around, so to speak. Yeah. So before I did that, before I decided to depart from the earth, so to speak, a voice inside me, which turned out to be my intuition, and I was fortunate enough to listen to it. It said, look, you have nothing left to lose, nothing. So listen to what your body is telling you. Listen to what your body is telling you it wants and needs. And so I did. And from that moment on, I developed my own plan of how I was going to overcome this and walk again. And I, from that moment on, did not follow anything that the doctors were prescribing to me. And I got off all medications because of the tools that I developed and implemented and was consistent on applying every day. I got out of my wheelchair. I was able to start working again. I was able to start walking with lightweight hiking poles.
Wow.
And, at that point, I thought, wow, this is just so amazing. I thought to myself, well, if I can do all this, what else do I want to be able to do?
Right.
And it was springtime in this beautiful part of the country in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And the answer came back right away. I'd love to be able to ride a two-wheel bicycle again, because I would used to be a bicyclist. So I thought, yeah, I'm gonna see if I could try to do that. So I went to work on it. I just did what I did before. I developed my own plan of action. Step by step, I planned it out in detail, figuring out what would it take for me to be able to ride a two-wheel bike unassisted again. So you got to understand that one of the things that MS takes away with a lot of people is a sense of balance. And what is the thing you need the most?
Right. Correct.
Ride to a bike unassisted.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I was telling my friends that I was doing this, everyone said, "You're nuts. You're going to kill yourself. Don't try to do that." They were obviously concerned with my safety.
Right.
My neurologists, they said, "Don't even attempt it. You can't do it because you don't have that innate sense of balance. And it would be so dangerous to even try." But I heard that calling inside me. And I, again, didn't take no for an answer. And I followed my own course of action, even though people were telling me every turn of the way I'm nuts.
Yeah.
I didn't even have a bicycle then. I had
Wow.
sold my bike because I couldn't ride anymore a long time ago. So I didn't have a bike to learn on. I couldn't even lift my legs up sitting on a child's bike. I had to start on a child's bike. I found a nice, wonderful bike store here that loaned me a child's bike. And I couldn't lift my feet up to the pedals. That's how weak my legs were. So we had to start by taking the pedals off. And for over a month, every day, I would work on just gliding, seeing if I could possibly develop a sense of balance.
Yeah.
And then after that, I got balance enough. And I also was working every day on leg lifts. And I would be doing 2.5 hours of work.
Wow.
On these exercises I developed before work and when I got home from work every day. It took 11.5 months of me progressing step by step by step. We finally put the pedals on the child's bike. I was finally able to do the child's bike. Then I had to start all over on a regular size bike, which is a whole scarier deal.
Yeah.
And lift my legs up even further.
Higher.
And even higher. Yeah. So the whole thing took 11.5 months of very hard daily work. But if you have a desire and you really, really want it, you go for it. And you don't let anybody say stop to you. And what I always remind people is there's a wonderful quote. I think Jim Rohn was one of the people attributed to this quote. But anything that we can vividly imagine, sincerely believe, strongly desire, and take daily action on, act on it every day, will come to pass. It's the law of the universe.
You mentioned so many key things. For example, the very first thing that I got from what you were speaking about was consistency.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're faced with some adversity, some obstacle, some challenge, and we give up.
Yes.
Yeah. What was it about that inner voice, your intuition, that you gravitated towards that voice versus the voices of your doctors, family, and friends that were telling you you can't do that?
Well, for one thing, I had already proven to myself from the first time around by developing that all those programs I developed to get myself out of the wheelchair and walking again, I'd already proven to myself that I can do this if I stay the course.
Yeah.
And it was not an easy gig. I started in the water because I couldn't walk, I couldn't swim. And even in the water, I couldn't even kick because I didn't have the leg strength. So I developed my own stroke to get myself from one end of the pool to the other. And you can see that if you go on my website, there's some videos of me doing these things. You can actually see it. And I just refused to give up. Why? Because I wanted to stay alive. I wanted to keep living.
Yeah.
That was my strong desire then.
Yeah.
And then after I was able to successfully do all that, then I knew, hey, if I can do that, I'm going to use these same principles and do the bike thing.
You had a success in the past that you were able to grab onto and hold on, that you brought into the present and into the future. And I think that's very important for our listeners to be able to capture and hold on to, because sometimes people wonder, they get the sense of, again, being in a challenge or an obstacle and they feel stuck. But if you think back as to the last time that you might have faced either something similar or whatever obstacle challenge you faced before that you successfully overcame.
That's right.
What were some of those tools? What was that feeling like? And hold on to that.
Excellent point. Yes, you're absolutely right on that. I also remind people that's how we learn to walk. When we were an infant and we're learning to walk, we learn to walk by falling down.
Yeah.
And then getting up and trying again.
Right.
And getting up and trying again. If we had given up back then, none of us we wouldn't be a species. We wouldn't be an upright species on the planet. We'd still be four-legged.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. It's really important for folks to acknowledge the things they have done in their life to overcome obstacles, because they have a track record of it. They just have to look for it, maybe write it down and acknowledge it.
So when you became successful, in achieving your goal, what were the reactions of the neurologists, your doctors, family, and friends?
Yeah, they couldn't believe it. They were kind of speechless. They were happy for me. I don't know about my neurologists. I don't know about that. But I guess one of my neurologists said it at one time. She said, you're the poster. I wish I could use you as the poster woman for having MS or any of these progressive diseases. And what I always remind people is, if I can do this, there's nothing magical about me. If I can do this, you can do whatever it is that you really desire to do.
Right.
If you have a plan of action, map it out, and stick to the plan, you can do it. You can get there.
So you shifted and you became a life coach. So
well, no, I've always been a mental health counselor ever since, even before MS came into my life. But after I had met all these challenges, come through them on the other side, I really knew that it was my purpose in being here to share this kind of thing so that no one else has to ever go through that despair that I did of wanting to exit out of life and losing hope. Because what I found out was losing hope is the hardest thing.
Right.
The biggest loss you can actually have. Yeah. So when I turned that around, I wanted to share this, and that's what I'm doing now. I just share with all kinds of formats. I do life coaching. I do individual coaching. I have a program. I've got a masterclass program that people can purchase and go at their own pace to transform their life. I put that together for them so that they can do these things and learn at their own pace. I talk them through step by step by step.
Awesome. So you are on the Fearless Fridays podcast. How are you living a fearless life, aside from all the great examples that you just gave?
I think I live a fearless life every day because one of the things I do every day is I'm going out now with my poles, walking 4 times a day, including up and down hills. And especially when it's very cold and it's dark and nobody's out and I'm there in my parka all by myself going down these hills, that's risky business. Because if something happened to me, nobody would find me and I'd probably get frostbite, at least nothing else. But I kind of live on the edge. I've always been a risk taker. But I think that's so important because what I remind people is if any of us wants to get from point A to point B, it requires letting go of point A, right? So you have to trust. There's a certain amount of have to go on faith and go with belief. In fact, during my bicycle quest, I had a chain that I wore around my neck, and it was chain link out of the bicycle chain. And it had a gear with it. And on the gear was inscribed the word believe. And I wore that every day for 11 and a half months until that came to pass.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that you've already shared some great tips that I'm pretty sure our audience has captured. But what's one specific thing that you can leave our audience with that they can take action this very moment that they're listening to move that needle from being in a place of being stuck to a place of taking action?
Yeah, one of the simplest things I can share, but it's one of the most powerful, is you have to be in a good state, emotional state, to be devising, thinking about what it is you want, devising a plan, and setting out your course of action. And in order to do that, be sure you're in a good state, emotional state. And the fastest way to get yourself in a good emotional state is to get up, go outside, put on your coat, go outside and move. It's movement. It's when we're doing movement, cardio movement. We're getting full breaths of air. We're feeling that wonderful circulation in our body, and our bodies are doing what they were designed to do. That's our natural state of what we should be doing. And so much of our depression and physical ailments now have come in this society from being so sedentary and not moving. So get up and move. That's the fastest way. Even if you just go out for a 10-minute walk, look at the sky, connect with nature. And then the second fastest way to change your state for the better is to focus on what you have to be grateful for. So what I do is I combine those two things. When I go out, which I do 4 times a day, and I'm moving, I'm focusing on what I'm grateful for. And I'm looking around for new things to be grateful for on my walk. And they always show themselves.
Yeah, I love that. So we know that you have a website, and I will be sure to put that in the show notes. But can you share what your website is and where our listeners and our audience can connect with you and learn more about you?
Absolutely. And I'm very accessible. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm very easy to connect with. If you go to Virginia Oman, it's VirGinia, and I'm sure you'll put this in the notes somewhere, right?
Yes.
And then my last name, OMAN.com. There's lots of things to look at on that website. I encourage people, really take your time and look around. There's a lot of free, useful information. I have podcasts there that they can listen to. I tell the full story of my journey, but also they can go and read the blog that I wrote, and also take a look at the masterclass program that I put together so that anyone who wants to change, who wants their life to have more joy and fulfillment, and they want to reach a certain goal, they can do this. I walk them through the steps on how to do that. And I made it very affordable so that people can utilize this because I'm so passionate about sharing.
Yeah, I love that. So as we get ready to wrap up, what are you working on and what are you looking forward to in 2024?
I'm working on right now on my 25th published article. I write for Best Holistic Life magazine, incredible magazine. I also have my own podcast called Transform Your Life on YouTube. If people, and that's free. So if they're interested in that, just go to YouTube and put in Transform Your Life with Virginia Oman, and you'll see it. And I'm getting ready to write a book this year. All kinds of things are coming up.
Nice. So thank you very much for sharing your story and for being with us today. And I will make sure that I will go on your website and YouTube and grab all the links and share them on our show notes.
Well, Marianne, thank you so much. And thank you for hosting this show. When I saw the title of the show itself, I knew that's a show I'd love to contribute to. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to leave a 5-star review and share with a friend or two. If you're not already following me on social media, come join the Fearless community at MRD Empowerment Solutions on Facebook and Instagram, or visit my website, marianneriveradanert.com. I'll catch you next week with a new episode, and remember that you are a priority and you matter.